So these intros have a really interesting way of working out. And as I said, the first 10 minutes of today's show is going to blow you away. It is a conversation about a thing that has become important in my life because the people in my life are involved in it. And I don't want to give it away. But I'll just tell you that the idea of sharing literacy in words and writing with other people is really important to me. I have had on my bucket list since the time I can remember teaching or running a workshop with Appalachian boys about writing for all the reasons that you might imagine. If you've ever listened to the show, you know I'm Appalachian, I'm a writer. These things are important to me. We also know that writing is one of the ways in which you develop empathy. It is one of the ways in which you develop an ability to live in somebody else's body and experience. And it's so pivotal in how we develop emotionally and how we develop mentally. And you've heard people talk about boys and reading, and you've heard them be derogatory about them, right? Like they can't sit still, and they just want to play video games, and boys don't really read. All of these things, none of which are true, but if you're listening right now, I promise you, you've heard those, and you've most likely thought, yeah, that's true. And I'm here to tell you that it's not true. I was that kid. I was trained to be a middle school and high school teacher of English. I spent 4 years studying early childhood education, how kids develop, how learning happens, and at no point has any scientific study that I know of ever come out and said boys are incapable of reading. Boys are incapable of doing that. But it's become one of those things that we just believe, and it's not true. And the fact that we just believe it and that people have given up on it and just think, oh, they just want to play video games or whatever. Send them outside, let them play outside. All of those things are great. But reading is how we develop empathy. Think about it. From the time you're a kid, if you're reading stories about other people, that's what fires your imagination. That's what gets you to grow and to understand that the world doesn't happen within your body, right? That we are sort of, as humans, we are looking out. And so we have this internal life, and everything we see is filtered through the way in which we process it. And if you don't allow young boys to experience other people's lives and to experience stories that aren't their own, that lens is going to become very small. And we see the result of that. So I have long been, for 25 years, 30 years, since I went to college, I started teaching my first semester in college because that was how Miami University ran their program, thank goodness. So for 30 years, I have been yelling and screaming about this. The idea that we should make boys read, and we should expect them to read, and we shouldn't ever, ever say that they can't or don't want to, or that's just the way they are. Otherwise, why the hell am I writing books? Why the hell am I doing all this stuff? And there's a bunch of us out there that are writing and doing these things. So I bring all that up because starting in a couple months, with the help and support of Write Pittsburgh, which is run by a wonderful woman, Vivian, is allowing me to develop a writing workshop for teen boys, Appalachian teen boys. And we're not exactly sure what it's going to be. And, you know, the first time you launch something, it's never what it eventually is. But as we were talking about on our call the other day, everything starts somewhere. And even if only 3 kids show up, it doesn't make a difference because that's 3 kids. And then the next year, maybe it's 5. And then the next year, maybe it's 10. What's important to me is creating a space. And you know this inherently because it's how you learned, it's how life happens. when people model what a thing should be, other people will follow. There was a study, I'm going to get this all wrong, but essentially it was they put a guy on a corner, or a person, maybe a woman, and they just had the person look up at a building. And they just sat there looking. And people walked by, and slowly other people would start to look up as well. And then a crowd would gather. And then suddenly there was a bunch of people looking up in the sky. Nothing was happening. They were just following what was happening. Even if you think you're the most independent person in the whole world, you are not. You are following some other model that somebody else did. And for my life, for all of the experiences that I've gone through, and for everything that I did, everything that I am, I always knew that what I wanted was to bring that idea of being able to embody other people to kids like me. Because not enough of us went back. Not enough of us Appalachian dudes who got out went back. We've also seen the result of that. So when I tell you the first 10 minutes of today's program is really powerful and you're going to love it, it's because this is a through line to the conversation. And these introductions just have such a fun way of working out, because literally I did this interview with Melanie, I don't know, maybe a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. And this workshop, after months and months and months of going around, finally came together. And then I listened to the show today and was like, man, the universe is a crazy son of a bitch. And I'll bring this intro to a close with this. If you have sons, godchildren, neighbors, whatever, and they're young boys, and I mean 18 or below, young boys. I mean, I want you to do this with any boy. But when they're kids, don't assume that just because they don't read, that that's not a thing they want to do. There just hasn't been enough modeling of us telling them that, yeah, that's what you should do. And I'm saying this particularly to the dudes who listen to this program, because it's incumbent upon us to go model that to them and to go fiercely and joyously making literature a part of our lives, making it the center of our lives, making it what is important to us, and letting them know and creating the space for them to do it. Because there's nothing more that will change this world than allowing our young boys to embody the stories and lives of other people through books. It will make this world a better place. It just will. I 100% believe that. Because you can't be a thing until you can imagine the thing. That's what books do.